Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Silent Ovation. We are on episode ocho, 8, for any of you that don't know it. Episode 8, we are sponsored by Ovation English, the world's first language learning program based on the performing arts. So, um, today I want to just kind of wrap up kind of my personal life a bit, and so that we can really get into the fun stuff, which is Ovation English. And I want to just talk about one of the opportunities that I had here that really changed me in so many ways. So I was telling you about working at Sir Thomas More and using the tablets to create scripts and monologues and raps, and we would record it and use it for the kids to practice their English, their speaking English. So now this school wasn't, they don't pay much. It was a small school, and I really needed to make more money. And my ex had started working at this school that had just opened called Colegio Menor in San Borondon, and it was a sister school of Colegio Menor Quito, where they it was in where it's been living for 20 years at that time, and so they decided to put a school in Guayaquil. And this is a private school, very elite private school, and you have to be in a certain social status to afford this. But so she was working there, and she had the first year she was there, and then the second year is when the really how I got there was. The second year she was there, my daughter was there as well. Evie was going there. So Evie was in kindergarten at that time, and I was still working at Sir Thomas More. But they had like a storytelling day on a Saturday. So the parents, went in to the class and told stories to the kids to so like I would have to go in and tell a story to Evie's classmates, Evie and her classmates. So I go there and I see other parents reading stories, and I see the kids just like and I'm like, oh God. And I just looked over and I saw in the other classroom there was a guitar. So I was like, you know what, screw the book, I'm gonna play some music. So, I grabbed the guitar, and once it was my time, I just started, playing like G and D and C, and just kind of like making up a story. And the kids were so into it; they loved it, because it was fun, it was exciting for them. And plus when you're a kid and you see a guitar and you see somebody playing guitar, it's like, whoa, what is this magical thing that you're doing? Because that's how I felt when I was a kid. The director at the time, who was an American, she said, "Hey, we have an extracurricular guitar program, and the guitar teacher just took off. So you want to do it?" And I was like, "Well, I had never taught guitar before, but sure, sure, no problem." And I was a bass player. I wasn't really proficient at guitar yet. I mean, I could play a little bit, but I wasn't really practicing a lot. But man, I took the opportunity and I got a guitar and I just started playing all the time. And I, just picked 2 songs to learn for the kids. And first year, they first class, I remember seeing like Javier and Nico and all these great kids, and they looked at me with open eyes, like, what the hell is this? And it was just it was magical because they were learning. They were learning because I'm passionate about music. I love music, and I know what music can do for kids. So, when I teach like how I learned discipline, over and over again and again, until you get it right. And that's how I taught, and that's what they adapted. they followed me. So we had a successful year. We did a little show in Plaza Lagos. Was that it? Yeah, I think it was Plaza Lagos. Literally had a little stage there, and it was amazing. It was amazing. Everybody was very happy. Parents were very happy, and I knew it was successful because the next year, the first year I had 12 kids. The next year I had 50 something. So it was just, and it was great because the next year, not only was I teaching how to play, but I was teaching them how to sing, all in English. We did "Let It Be" and a couple. I forgot what other one. There was Bob Dylan's song, and so they were playing and singing at the same time in English. So we would do a bunch of shows at the end of that year, and that was so successful. And so after the first year of doing that, of doing the program, of doing the classes, I was working at Sir Thomas More, and I would go there in the afternoon just to teach extracurricular, just teach guitar class. But in the second year, they asked me to actually come in full time, and they were like, "Look, well, you'll be a TA," because I didn't have the credentials to be a teacher, But the TA there was making more money than a teacher at Sir Thomas More, so I was like, no problem. So the second year, I was working full time there, and then doing the guitar class at the end of the day, and it was great because I was able to make money, with those classes. Because you still don't make as much as a TA, and I had two kids at the time, and I had to really do a lot. So, and that was a very, very successful year as well, because kids were not only playing, they were singing, and in English. And a lot of kids just stepped up. They stepped up to the plate and hit home runs. It was great. And then the third year came, and I was getting ready to, to do the class, and that's when I was told that I was told by a certain someone that that the school was bringing in their big music program that they had in Quito, very, very a lot of money, and that I was no longer needed, kind of like that. I was no longer needed. Not like, hey, look, sorry, this is coming in, but you should really do this. They were like, we can't use you anymore. That's when I was like, wait a minute, didn't I just do a good job? I mean, shouldn't I get? I mean, so that's it, And I was like, okay, and I was bummed because I loved the teaching, and it was good money. I mean, it was extra money, and I was forced to teach private classes, after school, which meant I would have to go from house to house to house to house, and my ex had the car for the kids, so I was taking the bus everywhere, walking to this house, going, I mean, I was getting home at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, and everybody was asleep. I wasn't seeing my kids. It sucked. That whole year sucked. That third year there really sucked. But I said, you know what? Next year, I'm going to make sure I create a program that, they can't say no to. So I was like, okay, well, what can I do? I can't do music because they have the music program, but I said, well, they don't have a drama program or, a musical theater program like every school in the States does. So I was like, hey, I'll figure out how to do a drama program. I didn't know. I never took really acting classes. I just knew just from performing. So I just did a little research, not much, and just put together a little program. And I sent it to the school. All like laid out beautifully, laid out from day one, what the kids would be doing day one to the end. And, I noticed that when I was in there kind of pitching it, there were other teachers in there saying, oh yeah, I want to do a dance class. It'll be so much fun. It's like, okay, what's the detail? And they loved it. They're like, okay, great. And they give it to them. I give them this detailed, project, presentation, and I wasn't hearing from them. Weeks went by, and I wasn't hearing from them. And I was like, but I keep seeing these other people saying, oh, I got this extracurricular, and I got this. And it was like, bullshit. I'm like, what? I'm like, this is what's happening here. And I'd go and be like, hey, did any news on the program? We're just waiting, because we were getting a new director coming in at that time from the UK. And we're just waiting for Robert, to say okay. And I'm like, why do you need his okay, but you're saying okay to everybody else? So I thought something was very fishy. So I grew some serious balls, and I wrote to the Quito administration up there in Quito, and I just sent them the program, and I didn't throw anybody under the bus. I just said, "Hey, I just created this program, and everybody's really busy around here, so but I just want to know, does this align with with the school?" And I wrote to the HR person and the director. I mean, it was very ballsy, very ballsy. I mean, I went over heads, but I wasn't getting answers, and everybody else was. So I was like, so I didn't hear from them for like 2 weeks, and I'm with my, I'm working in the classroom one day, and the secretary comes up to the class and says, "Oh, Scott's here. He was a director up in Quito." And I was like, and I look at the teacher that I was working with, and I go, "Ooh, you're in trouble." And she goes, "No, he wants to see you, Justin." And I was like, and I just thought about, oh, that's it. I screwed myself. I wrote this letter, and so I go in and I see him, and he looks at me, and he's like, "So, you know, I've been hearing a lot about you, so did my investigations." And I was like, "Oh, shit." I've asked teachers, I've asked students, I've asked parents all about you. I'm like, "Okay." And he goes, "Everybody loves you. Everybody has nothing but great things to say." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And he goes, "And that program you sent us, it's amazing, very detailed. But I need to tell you something. The school here, they took it from you and they made it their own, and they're calling it teatro, and they just hired a Spanish-speaking actor to run it. He doesn't speak English, like saying like, I don't know what they're doing, but and I just said, and they don't want you to do it." And I just looked at him and I was like, "Huh? What? Like, what?" Like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I knew it was real because this guy came from Quito just to have a conversation with me, a TA. So he was like, you know, for some reason, they don't like you. They don't like you, Justin. And I mean, this guy was so direct. I mean, so direct. He's like, "Because I can see you're this. You have this, and they don't like you for that." And I'm like, he's like, "But for teaching, you're great. The kids love you." So look, because what I did when I created that program, I promoted it through, third grade to all the way up to, 10th grade, because that's all we had at the time. I was going to classroom and classroom. I had at least 100 kids sign up. So he's like, "Look, there's nothing I can do. They took it. They're going to take, He's like, "But I gave you the third graders." And I was like, "Third grade?" I'm like, that was just like a bone, I'm like, what am I going to do? How am I going to prove anything with their, I'm thinking with high school kids, I could do monologues and they could really like show it, and I can, they'll see it and they'll see my, and I'm like, third grade, what am I going to do? How can I do this? He's like, "I'm sorry, but that's what it is." So then that's when everything, the relationship with me and a certain someone, I don't want to say their names because this person has two really amazing boys, and I respect them too much. So this person just had a meeting with me right after that and just tried to bully me, and you can't bully. How you gonna? It's impossible. I don't fear anything, And she's bullshitting me. They were bullshitting me, and I called them out on it. And there was nothing they could do because I already got the okay. So that's when everything started to really. That's when I knew, okay, something's up here. Okay, something's up, and it's not good. So I did that year. I did that year with the third graders, and for one, those kids, amazing. I mean, those third graders. We did a scene from High School Musical. I don't remember the song, but man, these kids, they just they did it all. I mean, they went for it, and not only that, but they were really enjoying themselves. I mean, I had kids that were so shy, but towards like the third week, they were like auditioning and like just belting it out, and their peers were like, "This girl never said a word. Now look at her." I mean, it just changed their lives. It just changed them. I saw them blossoming. And I saw through the performing arts. I saw these kids just blossom. So it was amazing. So we did the performance at the end of the school year, and at the time the new director was in from the UK, Robert, and he saw it and he was like, "Dude, what do you want to do next?" And I was like, "Broadway." Because I had already like done research on, getting doing a Broadway show like every school does in schools in the States. We do a Broadway show, so figured out how to get the rights, how to set up the schedules and all. I had done all that. All that stuff was easy for me for some reason. So when he asked me, he was like, and I said Broadway, and I said I already have the show. I'll send you all the information. Luckily, I did. Luckily, I had everything already prepared. So because I sent him that. Because before he even said anything like, "What are you going to do?" He had said, "Oh, the music director," because I had told the music director about my program a few days ago. He goes, "Oh, the music director had this great idea about doing musicals," and I said, "Yeah, and I don't want to." I was like, "Yeah, we had talked about it, but." Luckily, I had everything already planned out, so I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to send you everything." Because this guy was just saying, "Yeah, let's do musicals." That was it. But I had all the info. I had everything laid out, just like the other program. So he came to me the next day and he was like, "Dude, go for it." So the following year, I I did. I started on this magical journey, and we started with Fame, the show Fame, and it was like out of a movie. We had the trials, the pre-audition trials, just warm-ups. Then we had the auditions, just like you see in the movies. you know and these kids weren't they had never had this before. They didn't have musical theater in their schools before. This is the first time they're ever really, some of them are ever really seeing this. you know some of them never even saw a Broadway show. So, and some of them did. I mean, there were a few people that had a lot of talent. And we had the auditions, and just like in the movies, you put the cast list up for the first time and they go, "Oh, my God," and it was great. Even the school was amazed by it, because it was just so beautiful. Nobody had ever done that here. They had only seen these things in movies. So the first year we did Fame, and let me tell you, I didn't ask for any money for this. Didn't ask for. I was like, I don't need any money, because really I just thought, okay, we're gonna practice this show, and we'll perform it in the because there was no auditorium, there's no nothing, so I was like, yeah, we'll just perform it in the cafeteria, just like we did with the first year with the young ones. Didn't happen. So we're rehearsing, and it's just these. I had this amazing partner, Harriet, who was a professional dancer in the UK, and she really, and Sally, who had done musical theater in her other school. They just gave me the best knowledge. I mean, I had the drive, I had the vision, but I didn't know all the ins and outs of it. Especially because I was a rocker, I was a musician. I really wasn't into musical theater, but so they really guided me in the right places, and gave me all the filled in all the blanks that I needed. And by we were rehearsing. The show was supposed to be in December. We were just supposed to present in December, and this was like I think it was we're probably around September. September it was. So, and the director hadn't seen any of the rehearsals, so I was like, Robert, come up and see one, and he was just like, all right. So I brought him up because we had just really nailed the opening scene. Pray, 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 I pray, I make peace. I mean, it was just beautiful. So he came in and he's watching the kids do the whole first scene, and he's just standing there like this. And so we finished, and he goes, I got to talk to you. And when somebody says it to me, I'm like, oh shit, like he goes, how did you do that? They're like pros. He just could, and I was like, he's like, how? I wasn't expecting that. He's like, that's professional level. And I was like, oh, really? Really? You like, and I was like, he just got so excited, and I was just like, he's like, man, you and me, this is going to be great. Oh my God, I can't wait for Keto. I can't wait. We're going to, this is, like, he just got so excited. And I was like, oh my God, I did something good okay. And he's talking about future endeavors and things like that. And I'm like, wow, okay, awesome. So 2 or 3 weeks go by, and I go into school, and I'm like, hey, have anybody seen Robert? And they're like, nope, he didn't come in today. And he had a meeting with somebody, and I was like, what do you mean? He goes, he got fired. I was like, what? What? Like, my biggest support? What? This guy gave me the chance? What? Wow, he's amazing. What? I said, well, his ideas didn't line up with theirs. And I was like, what? And that night, he gave me a call, and he was like, he just said, look, things happen for a reason. I can't really talk about it, but Justin, keep your head down. There are snakes in the grass, and they know your name. And I was like, oh, shit. And then I found out who was in charge, and of course it had to be my favorite person in the world. So I was like, I can't believe this is the worst case scenario, that he leaves and this person's in charge. But the good thing about what happened was, parents, they wanted a foreigner there. So everybody was pissed, but so that week we had like a showing at Family Day where we did that scene, and it just knocked everybody's ass to the ground. I mean, and I have the video of that too, but it knocked everybody's ass to the ground. So everybody's like, what the so that's when the school was like, okay, we need this show. So instead of it being just a small little thing in the cafeteria, they were looking for theaters. They were like, okay, we're going to get a theater. We're going to do this, because they said this could help, bring the morale back, and I was just like, it went from being, that crazy person to, Justin, my buddy, come on. Hey, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? Tell us. We're here for you. I'm like, it's like I saw right through it, but it was just like, all right, the show, it's just, this is for the kids. This has to get done. I don't give a shit. Just, all right, whatever. This is what we need. This is what we need. So in that case, yes, we got the best theater in town, sold out. We got everything we needed as far as costumes, as far as, everything. Parents really worked. Parents helped a lot. And basically the show was so big and such a huge success that everybody forgot about Robert. I mean, literally, everybody forgot about it because they had never seen a Broadway show done by a school in English, to that quality. And that had a lot. That was my team. The team I had, Harriet, and I mean, it wouldn't have been without them, So, the following year, I'm like going in, and I'm, starting the year, and I'm like, so. I asked my best friend. I said, hey, last year was such a success, and I'm thinking everybody's still on my ass, so I better take it, take advantage of it. I'm like, hey, so, look, that took me a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I'm only getting this amount of money. Do you think I can get a raise? Thinking, just look at what I did, and I didn't. Nobody asked me to do it. I just gave it to them, and right away they said, nope, 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 like that, nope. I'm like, well, what happened to Justin? You're my best friend. Oh, nope, you get nothing. Like, you're lucky you're going to get the same that you got last year. I'm like, the same? I mean, don't you want to? So I knew, okay, this was getting bad. Okay, because like I was getting all this attention and all this gratitude from parents, and everybody was just so happy, and I just saw that this person just did not like that. I think they wanted it for themselves. So it was just so the following year we did Alice in Wonderland because I wanted to do something fantasy. I wanted to try it. We did Fame, which was kind of reality, and I wanted to do Alice, and it was a big endeavor. And I came that second year even more prepared, and same thing. We had the pre-auditions, the auditions, and we got the cast, and man, it was amazing. I mean, the end result, it was, and there was a professional company doing Alice in Wonderland in the same theater, and they sucked. People were saying that ours was 10 times. I mean, these were so. It just got so. It was just. It turned into a monster. After Alice, it turned into a monster, And so I'm like, okay, I gotta really, turn on the heat for the third year, And this was in 2019 when we did Alice. So I was like, okay, what can I do that can not only entertain but teach, but that's fun, and because a lot of the audience, they don't speak English and they don't understand, but at least so you need something that visually that they could catch on to. So I was like, Hairspray. I mean, what's better than Hairspray? All the songs are great, the message is great, equality and all this stuff. And I said, they could relate to it here. So I had gotten all the materials before the end of the 2019 year. Going into 2020, I had done all my research and all my work. So, but then, boom, what do we get? Pandemic. And, school shut down, everything's online, and I'm thinking to myself, my opportunity's done. How am I ever going to get anywhere if I can't do a show? How this is going to, people are going to forget, and because I'm thinking I got to keep my reputation going so that I still have a job, so I still can make extra money, because they still were treating me like garbage and just giving me scraps. So I had seen this little thing on YouTube where like a little bunch of kids were doing just a song from a show, The Big 1-0, and it was very cheap and very basic. But I was like, online Broadway show, and that I just boom, I pitched it to my best friend, and she was like, okay, you could try that, sure. I mean, she was actually, in that point, she was in a bit supportive because the school was just in a jam, so anything, and I had to really push to get paid. I had to push for, my partner to get paid, and I had to figure out how to do this without actually seeing or touching the kids, How are we going to do this? How can I, you have the delay, the sound delay online and everything. So we just did it. I just put it all together, and we did Hairspray online. So if you go to YouTube and you go Hairspray online, you'll see that's pretty much my greatest accomplishment to this date. The fact that I did something that I still haven't seen anything like it. I had never seen I had never seen anything like it before. So the fact that I just kind of dreamt it up and thought that we could do it, and we did do it to a great so it was great. I can't even think of the word. it was so well done, and I had two companies help me with the production because I couldn't put that together. So I had to teach the kids how to direct themselves, how to sing, and I mean, because they had to do everything at home, and it all came together, and that was Hairspray Online, and it was just the most amazing thing ever. I even got recognized by Broadway for it. And the funny thing, when I got that recognition, it came in paper and it said, you know, we would like to recognize Justin McLaughlin for the work he's done, and Colegio Menor for redefining Hairspray and doing it online, blah 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 blah. So it had mentioned Colegio Menor, and I was like, oh. So I sent it to my best friend. I sent it, and they're like, look at this, and they're like, oh my god, you didn't hear anything of it. Nobody mentioned it. Nobody did nothing. The next day, we got a message. Congratulations to the vice principal for completing her principal workshop. I was like, what, you know, I was like, Jesus Christ, what does it take? What does it take? What does it take? You know, these people even got mentioned by Broadway, you know, and that was hard to take. That one was hard to take because it took me a year to produce that. The kids just, I mean, they worked so hard. I mean, all the effort they put into it. And the school didn't even show it. Didn't even show it. Didn't even show it. Nobody knew about it. Nobody, I mean, nothing. I mean, we were the first school, for one, in Ecuador, I know that, probably in South America, maybe even the world, to actually complete an entire Broadway show online. And that was sad. That was sad. And I just knew at that point that, okay, for some reason, this isn't going to end well. So then, you know, I go in for the fourth year, and I go in and I say, hey, you know, can I get more money? And they said, no. They had made me a theater teacher, so they had given me like a bump, you know, because they had to. I was ruling the school, you know. I mean, you can't keep somebody like me as a TA because it doesn't help them at all, you know. It doesn't help them. You put your best people forward. So, you know, they did that, and I got a bump and raise, and I said, hey, can I get a raise for the shows or everything I've done? I put, you know, this straight up, nope. You're lucky you even get this, you know. So you're not getting any money for this because we gave you the teaching job. And I was like, but there are teachers that get extracurriculars and they get two payments, you know. And it was just like, so I had to tell them, like, look, me and my ex, we separated and we're having, you know, and I had to really, it was embarrassing, you know, and I shouldn't have had to say that, you know. So that's what made them say, okay, we'll give you the regular payment that you've been getting for the past 3 years. Like, you know. And then I noticed, as I'm, you know, being a theater teacher and school, it's just, there was always issues. It was always issues, you know, always something wrong, always something, you know, always something. And that's when, you know, and we did Annie that year, and it was the best show we had. I mean, best as far as performance, as far as looks, as far as energy. I mean, everything. I mean, people were asking me where did I hire these actors, and I'm like, they're my students, you know. And it was amazing, but it just, for some reason, after that, they were coming to me with really silly allegations. I mean, sickening allegations, and I just said, what the hell? What the hell? I just, come on. When am I going to get a break? You know, and so the school year ended, and so did my career there. They fired me a couple days after the school year ended. They didn't even have the guts to be with me. There was just a lawyer there telling me he doesn't know why this is happening, but it's happening. And nobody was there. It was in a glass room. The whole administration's looking at me while this lawyer is firing me. Nobody from the school was represented, you know. They just flew the coop. So that destroyed me because I knew I wasn't going to see my kids every single day. That was the beauty of working there, was being able to see my own kids every single day. And they took that from me, and it really just destroyed a lot. It destroyed a lot. And that's when, from that is because I lost that. That's when I really said, okay, I gotta do something. And that's when I started, out of necessity, doing Ovation English. And that's when I really started coming up with it and really designing it. It was just out of necessity because I needed to do something. I needed to make money. I had nothing, you know, and I had no support, really, no support whatsoever. People just turned their backs. They just, I was like blacklisted. I was like a leper, Nobody wanted to touch me. Schools wouldn't hire me. Nobody would touch me, and nobody would touch me. So it was a really crappy situation. And then I found out by my daughter that they were moving back to the States. And I shouldn't have heard it from her, but that's when everything I started to lose it, and which led me to going back to the States for 2 years, where I pretty much had a really horrible time mentally, really, really bad. And I didn't think I was ever going to come out of it. And people like Gabby in my life, really helped me get over things. And my time in the States, I hadn't been there in 12 years, and I hated every day of being there because I just felt like Ecuador was my home. Like, this is my home. I felt at home here. I felt at home. This was everything, and I just hated it. And I just worked my way to kind of get healthy mentally. And I'm still working on it. It's still a struggle every day. But what I've realized is that, this has never left me. And so I know that there's still a lot for me to do here, and there's a purpose for me, and that's why I'm at the point where, okay, I put Ovation English together. It took me a long time to put together, and I got the website going, I got all this, and now I'm ready to give it to the world. So I wanna just thank you for listening to my life and my stories and everything. Now it's it wasn't so bad. I thought it was going to be worse, but I'm happy that this part's over because I don't want to talk about this crap anymore. I mean, yes, it'll come up as we're talking more about Ovation English and how this program came up, or this tactic or this technique came up. So you'll hear little bits, but not much more of me. But I'm just glad that I got it all out, and I'm happy that I can move forward with Ovation. So once again, my name is Justin McLaughlin. This is a Silent Ovation, and we're sponsored by Ovation English, the world's first and only language learning program based on the performing arts. And starting on episode 9, we will start getting into Ovation English, the real fun stuff, okay? So once again, thank you everybody for listening, and I will see you next time. Peace!